move the needle. Either way, when you've got the nitro in your pocket to destroy that person, the person of character doesn't use it and says, look, I have to live in this town. When the circus leaves and the consultants close down and the signs come down, people will remember me whether I was civil, kind, respectful, or whether I was caustic. We do not, as a movement, have the license to say anything and do anything in the quest to preserve and advance liberty. We just don't. We have to make sure that a new standard, the Founding Fathers, ensure they had their problems, ensure there were excitable pamphlets and things that were printed, but the standard that we have to live by is a standard that says, we're going to be gracious in the public square. We're going to use words that convince and move people, and we will not destroy the political process in the hopes of trying to save it. And I offer these words respectfully, knowing that I get it wrong so many times. And wherever and however I can be helpful to you in your quest to be of service to your neighborhoods and the public, always happy to do it. So, Scott, thank you. Time for questions or no? Great. Yes.
Are you currently legislator?
I'm not. I retired 2 terms and went to work for Commonwealth Foundation, and then the pay raise happened and started. There was not a firm who would take center-right, conservative, free market, conservative candidates, because the system essentially, the employees of the Senate, for example, were also in charge of the campaign committee. They would pick the candidates and they would fund them, and I could give you the stories that would make you feel even more unhappy about the system, but I'm not here to do that. But I'm not anymore, and I think when you make a decision to run for office, you have to make a decision knowing that you go in, you put that date on the calendar, and you get out at some point. Because if you are a really good, stalwart, conservative, libertarian, fighter for truth in America, people will tell you that you're indispensable, and they will talk you into, who's the guy that was George Nethercutt that beat Tom Foley. I just remember year after year, Joe Pitts, fine congressman, but took a pledge, not to run again. Those things begin to erode the confidence in the public. So self-term limits are great, but they're also a check against your own ego. Anything else?
What are you doing with the Churchill organization?
Our offices are on Front Street. We have a team of designers, graphic designers, graphic artists, media people, writers. We're working with people like Sam and others on projects, primarily free market, pro-growth, pro-business organizations. And I've really made a conscious decision to step away after, we gave it all in Sam's race, and Sam was a friend and believed in him, but it takes a tremendous toll going on the road, and if I cannot be every day on the road helping to manage a message, and I really get involved in the crazy details of like music tracks and sign colors, so I have to have some balance in my life and say no campaigns for at least a while.
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah.
You mentioned that Churchill focuses on pro-jobs.
Yeah.
Do you know about John Kennedy, who ran for lieutenant governor?
Yeah.
He has a started called
Yeah.
Empowerment.
Yeah, John is a really great friend, and I had John and I had lunch like a year and a half ago, and John has been a fighter all of his life. He's a successful rail executive, and ran in the 80s as a state representative. Was the reformer. No pension, no burden, nothing. He and I both kind of were the no pension guys, and he stepped out. Ran for state treasurer, lost by like a percentage point. And he and I were sitting about 20 years later in Camp Hill, and I said, John, if you're this mad, you need to do something. And he goes, and he's 70, 71, 70. And so I love people like John Kennedy, just do it. Just get it, do it. They're gonna be very influential. Joe Stearns and Ryan Shafiq, and John Kennedy are out there. So he's a hero.
Is there anything differently that you would have done in the work?
Well, we ended up probably at the $700,000 mark. We thought that the winning mark was about $2.5 million, and it was a race that probably, if it would have happened 2 or 3 months later, you can say that, but it was literally a race against time. So you look at the map and you say, well, where Sam was getting 200 and 300 people at a town hall meeting with 2 days' notice, more than any other candidate for governor, if you had time to put some infrastructure money behind it, I'm not a TV guy in the traditional sense. I think the days of TV as the end-all are over. So you could put 10 million against 2 million and still win, because the benefit of the doubt really goes to the challenger. But I don't know what you could have done differently. Sam's message was clear. Sam, this was not a campaign where we took a poll and a focus group and said, okay, Sam, you're going to go here. We essentially said Sam wanted to outline his principles, use the campaign as a format to say, here are 2 or 3 of the hardest issues. Right to work, for example, does not poll particularly well. It was part of his speech. It has now been endorsed by the Republican nominee for Lieutenant Governor. The Taxpayer Protection Pledge was something that everybody said you can't sign that pledge. You know, it'll shackle you. We're going to a bad economy. School choice was the issue he introduced. He was, of course, the sponsor of the school choice bill in Pennsylvania, the lead sponsor. We have both candidates at least endorsing in principle school choice because of that campaign. So I love what's come out of it, and I think Sam is going to be, he is just a humble, direct person who has no animosity towards anyone, and he and Tom have had really wonderful conversations since, and there's not going to be any co-opting, there's not going to be any political shenanigans. If Tom calls or if Dan Honorado calls and asks advice, he's going to give it, and that's what I appreciate about him. Scott? One last note? Anyone? Okay. Thank you very much.